I'm the Broadband Program Director for the state of North Dakota IT Department, and welcome to our fourth and final description of the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Challenge Process Overview. We've conducted 3 of these already, and we've conducted them for carriers. We had about 40 ISPs on for that. We've conducted it for tribal governments and had about 10, and yesterday conducted one for local governments at a smaller number, but one person was representing all of the North Dakota cities. So we've had 3 of these. They're very similar, but they're kind of geared towards the questions you might have for the particular stakeholder groups. And this one is related to nonprofit organizations, which is the 4th group that is eligible to participate by law in the challenge process. So today, from an agenda standpoint, what we're going to do is cover the Bead program overall, the challenge process. We have a couple people from Guidehouse, which is our consultant that we're using for much of our Bead program, and they will walk through a little bit of that. We've also contracted with a company called ready.net actually, and they are the organization that has developed the portal for the challenge process. So they're going to walk through registration and challenge submission as well. Then we're going to get into the next steps and any questions you might have. This webinar is being recorded, and therefore after this session, we will work to get all 4 of the links up on our website at broadband.nd.gov, so that if you have some colleagues or peers that were unable to watch this, or you want to watch any of the others, or you just want to watch it again to get familiar, you'll be able to. We should have it up in a few days. Now that after this one, we'll have the 4th one up. So that'll be going on. And then if you have questions, though, if you can either raise your hand during the time, or at the end we will ask for questions. What we'll do is try and save most of the answers for that at the end. You can also go into chat and type in your question, and then when we've gone through this registration challenge walkthrough and get into next steps in Q&A, then we'll go to answer all those questions. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mary from Guidehouse to go through the program.
Thank you, Brian. So just to start out, we'll give you a brief overview of the Bead program, the challenge process, and then what our timeline will look like before we actually do the walkthrough. So Nicole, you could take us to the next slide. The Bead program itself provides about $42 billion in funding to eligible entities in order to promote and expand access to high-speed internet. So the program funds a number of different activities ranging from planning to deployment to mapping to adoption. And as we think about the relative prioritization of the program, it really centers around the deployment or the infrastructure piece. So the order of operations are for the state to first fund service to unserved locations and underserved locations. So those that are receiving under 25 over 3 megabits per second and under 100 over 20. Once all unserved and underserved locations have been addressed, the state can then fund gigabit level access to community anchor institutions. And then assuming funding remains at that point, once all unserved and underserved locations and CAIs have been addressed, the state can then use remaining funds to support digital equity related initiatives or programs, which might range from adoption related programs to affordability related initiatives. As we think about the timeline for the next year or so, it's really bucketed into 4 distinct phases. At this point, the state has submitted to the NTIA its initial proposal for review and approval. Once the NTIA approves Volume 1 of the state's IP, the state can then initiate its challenge process, which will be about a 100-day process that consists of 3 distinct phases. Once the challenge process has concluded, the state will then run subgrantee selection between the summer of 2024 to the fall, which will take us somewhere around the end of the year, where the state will begin documenting findings from the challenge process and subgrantee selection, including any award determinations, and submitting to the NTIA for review and approval in its final proposal. On the next slide, we'll walk through a brief overview of the challenge process. So as we think about the intention of the challenge process, the idea here is really to get at an accurate list of BEAD eligible locations. So the challenge process will allow challenges from a few organizations, namely nonprofit organizations, units of local government and tribal government, and broadband service providers. And the idea here is that these eligible organizations can challenge a determination that's made by the state about whether a location is or is not eligible for BEAD funding. As we look at the allowable challenges, these also fall under a few prescribed categories. So availability challenge, whether broadband service is offered at the location or not. Technical features, this is related to speed, data cap, and latency. Technology type, if the challenger is aware that the technology that is listed for that location is not accurate. If the location is a residential location, but is only only business services being offered or marketed for that location. CAI eligibility determinations, whether a location should be classified as a CAI or whether the state currently includes an extraneous CAI that should be removed from the list. Enforceable commitments, if the challenger is aware that broadband will be deployed to that location by a federal obligation like Reconnect or CAF. And then finally, outside of those enforceable commitments, if the challenger is aware that broadband will be deployed to that location by June of 2024. A few unallowable challenges that I will flag to use a reclassification of the BSL or the building type. So we're not able to add or remove BSLs from the list. This would be done through the FCC challenge process. So with that, I will turn it to Jason, who will walk through a timeline of the challenge process on the next slide.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. With regard to timeline, we do anticipate this period to begin next month and run through the summer with the exact dates to be announced. We're currently waiting for the NTIA to finish their final round of curing for North Dakota's initial proposal, Volume 1. Once that's been concluded, we'll have a clear sense of exact dates and we'll circulate that to everyone who's going to be participating in the challenge process. So prior to the beginning of the challenge process, all eligible entities will need to pre-register for approved access to the challenge portal. We will go into additional detail during our demo in a few moments on what information is going to be required to submit for registration. As mentioned, we'll also be circulating this information prior to the beginning of the challenge process. This will include a user guide, next steps, expectations, as well as the information we talk about on this call today. So with that, the first phase is going to be the challenge period itself. During this phase, challengers will have 30 days to submit one or more challenges through the challenge portal. If necessary, we will be able to extend this period by an additional 15 days to allow adequate time for all challenges to be submitted. This will be like a discretionary action on the part of North Dakota should it be deemed necessary. Concurrently, the rebuttal phase will be running alongside the challenge period. During this time, providers will have 30 days from the notification of a challenge to provide a rebuttal. That 30-day window will be triggered when the challenge is submitted. So whether that's the first day or the last day of the challenge phase, that 30-day window doesn't start until the challenge has been submitted. Following the conclusion of the rebuttal period, the state will begin its final determination phase. While we will have ongoing reviews of submitted challenge and rebuttals, final determinations will have a 30-day window for the state to review following the conclusion of the rebuttal period. Again, if necessary, the final determination phase may be extended by an additional 15 days to allow the state additional time to thoroughly adjudicate all challenges. So if there are any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat. We will get to those at the back half of this call, but in the meantime, I'll turn that over to my colleague Shane at ReadyNet to walk through the challenge process portal.
Cool, thanks, Jason. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here for everyone to see. All right, is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Great, thank you. So this is the first page we'll discuss, and it's the registration site. So it's where you'll sign up to get access to the portal to be able to make challenges. You'll see here that it will give a little introduction about the BEAD program, the overview, some of the stuff that we've already gone over, like the challenge categories and types. But what you really want to pay attention to here is the register button on the right. So you'll go ahead and click that. and you're going to get a form to fill out. So I'm just going to fill this out with some fake data myself. All right, and then you'll go down here and select nonprofit for the type of organization. Click next, and we're going to capture a little more information from you. Your EIN, your address. All right, and then at the bottom here, you'll also see two areas to where you can upload files. So this will be a document of registration with the North Dakota Secretary of State's office and any additional documentation to validate your identity. You'll go ahead and click finish. And with that, you'll get a thank you for your submission. You'll also get an email. And what happens here is your registration goes to the portal, and on North Dakota's site, they'll be able to go and review that and approve you or ask for more information, or if it's something that looks invalid, deny. Once they approve you, you will also get emailed saying, hey, congrats, you're approved. And you'll get an email with a magic link that will allow you to sign into the portal. So you'll go ahead and click that magic link, and it will take you into what I'm showing now. This is the challenge process portal. Now, this first page is the dashboard. So on here, you'll be able to see challenges that you've previously made. So you can see a few that I've already done here. You'll see top level metrics, such as if any of your challenges need revision, if you withdrew any. And then over here on the right, you'll see the add challenge button, which will allow you to start building new challenges. Next thing that I want to show you before we get into actually adding a challenge is the challenge map view. So this is the place where you'll most likely come to start viewing the map, looking at locations of the BSLs, and potentially creating challenges from. So first I'll show you zones. You're able to actually create zones on the map that can help you identify points you're interested in more easily. So I'll go ahead and create one of those. Add the tags. And you have two options to define your zone boundaries. If you want to upload a shape file and you already have zones mapped out, you can go ahead and do that here. Or you can draw a polygon on the map, which I'll go ahead and show right now. Looks like it already connected somehow. So I'll go ahead and save that. And now you can see that zone there. And this is nice because on the map itself, it allows you to flag on and off those zone layers that you've created to identify important points. A couple other things to just go over on the map. You're able to turn on and off visibility for the broadband serviceable locations. You can show color and points on the map based on performance category, building types, community anchor institutions. You can show different unit counts, as well as if the locations are not a CAI or only CAIs. Other funding programs, other broadband technologies, or certain internet service providers, you can also filter by to make the map find whatever you need to be looking for. At the bottom, you'll also see that you can turn on and off the census block groups. And you have 4 different options of the map, which are satellite, light mode, terrain, and dark mode, which I personally like best. So we'll continue with that one for the sake of this demo. So once you see that, you'll also notice that you have the 4 challenges that you saw on the dashboard over here in the right-hand side, and up top also that add challenge button. So we'll go ahead and click the add challenge button to start our new challenge. And you'll see that it auto hides your selection of your map layers. I'm just going to leave it on the default here. And I'm going to go ahead and click provider service level for my challenge category, and then availability as my challenge type. It's not going to be a multi-dwelling unit challenge. All right, and then you'll see here you get a couple other questions. So you want to identify the specific reason that the service is not available. And I'll just say it's not offered. I'm going to go ahead and use CenturyLink as the provider. And you can see it, the map will automatically filter to CenturyLink locations. I'm going to zoom in on the map a little bit. And then I'll click copper wire as a technology type. On the next page, it will ask you to select the locations. So this is kind of similar to the zones where you get you have the option to upload. So you can upload a CSV with the locations, or you can select an area. So you can use your zones, for example. Or what I'm going to do is click shift, and then drag on the map to select some locations. You can see there, do you want to add these to the challenge? I'm going to confirm. And then I'll go ahead and continue on. And this is where you'll upload that evidence and documentation about your challenges. So we have a spreadsheet here. You can download and use that. And then I already have one built. So I'll go ahead and select that for my evidence. And the final page is just an attestation that everything you're saying is correct. So I'm going to confirm and submit the challenge. Once you submit the challenge, you'll see that it is now here on my dashboard. That's the one I just created with the 17 locations, date submitted today. And this is the main page that you'll pay attention to as well if your challenge needs revisions, or once the rebuttal phase starts, if any of your challenges get rebutted, you'll want to pay attention to this page as well. But that's basically the high level overview. Very simple to make challenges. And yeah, thank you.
All right. So with that, we'll talk quickly through next steps and then open up for any questions you all may have. I know this is a lot of information we just covered, so happy to field all those. The most immediate next step is going to be completing the registration. So a registration period will open prior to the challenge period. You will receive an email once you've been approved. This will be the link that Shane referred to. So please go ahead and submit your registrations on the challenge portal. Additionally, as mentioned, we'll be sending out different materials for you all to review in advance of the challenge process starting. This will include everything we talked about here today, as well as a user guide on how to navigate the portal, just so when you're inside of it, it's very easy to know how to navigate and where to go. For the CostQuest licensing, this is something that will be need to completed before challenges can be submitted, before the process can proceed. A Tier E license is going to be for local government, tribal governments, and nonprofits. This is an application that's available through CostQuest. You can submit the request form on their website. ISPs will need to register for a Tier D license. So when going through that process, make sure that you're signing up for the correct one. Again, we'll provide this information as well as the difference between both licenses when we circulate the materials at the end of this. And then finally, at the opening of the challenge period, this will be the kickoff, and we anticipate it beginning next month after the NTIA completes their final round of curing for the initial proposal, Volume 1. So once that's completed, we'll announce an official start date, and the process can open up. So with that, we'll switch over to open forum to cover any questions you all may have about the challenge process, next steps, or any of the materials you saw demoed today.
And just at a really high level, the idea here is that as a nonprofit organization, this process will give you the opportunity to contest any inaccuracies in the availability or the features of the broadband service that is available or potentially not available at the organization that you represent. And as Brian mentioned, this is recorded, so if you need to go back and rewatch it, it'll eventually be posted online. And we're also going to be circulating a number of different resources, such as FAQs and a user guide that'll walk you through completing that registration process, requesting the CostQuest license, and then ultimately submitting a challenge.
So I would add and point out at the bottom there on this screen that you see there's an email address, and please, this is new for all of us and we don't really have a chance to go through it once and learn from it. It's a one-time thing, which is the benefit of having ReadyNet involved because they're supporting about 15 states with this portal. But if you have questions, please email the broadband@andy.gov. We want to do anything we can to speed up the learning curve because very quickly we'll need to be doing this. We expect that we'll be starting sometime in March, but we don't quite know, and you'll receive all the follow-up email before then. If you have any questions, you could type in chat or raise your hand or unmute and just ask. Just kind of putting that call out for any questions you might have. Doesn't look like we have any. I want to thank everybody for joining the call. Again, if you have emails, please, or any questions, please email to us again. But absent any questions, I think we will wrap up, and thank you for being on the call and look forward to participation from any of you in this challenge process that's coming up in March. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.